Boom. So for the past few days, I've been trying to record videos on my phone because that's the easiest way I can think of to record a video. And I was watching my own videos, and then I clicked around on YouTube and I saw someone else's video, and I was like, wow, that video quality is so good. And then I realized, shit, I have a camera, I have a mic, I could make good videos. And then I figured I'm gonna try and do this setup again and see how much time it takes. And yeah, so I'm probably gonna go back and forth on these videos. And it's funny because this is going to take a little bit more effort. So once I'm done recording this, I will have to export it to my computer, then I will have to take the audio from the mic, and I'll have to merge it together on iMovie. That's how I do it, and then upload it. So it's a significantly more tedious process to upload the video, but it looks so much better though, and it should sound better as well. So I'll try. I might switch back to making videos from my phone again. I don't know. But here we are. Okay, so articulating a vision part 3. I did not think that this video would have so many parts, but it just feels like there's so much preamble. And even in my second video, someone left a comment that Noah left a comment saying that, one of the I think the thing that I got out of it was that, yeah, one of the reasons I'm kind of hesitant to be too assertive about what I'm saying is because it's not a very binary thing. Like you don't necessarily need a perfect vision in order to do something, and it would be unfortunate if you thought that, oh, I'm not doing anything because I don't have a vision, and if I don't have a vision, then like I'm never gonna do anything worthwhile. Like that's incorrect. That's a vision is not something magical that drops out of the sky and hits you with divine inspiration and you have like this perfect ideal, right? It's something that you kind of workshop over time and you figure out through trial and error. And I'm watching this video and I'm looking at my hair and I'm looking at my curtain and I'm thinking of all these details. Anyway, yeah, forgive me. um what is it I want to talk about? Well, so having done all that preamble about the utility of a vision and what, I can't even remember specifically what I talked about, but I kind of want to get into some of my specific visions, I guess, right? Like, you might say that maybe I should have started with that, but I didn't. For whatever reason, so here we are. And I think that my concept of visions, and it's saying the word, when you say the word too many times it kind of becomes strange, right? You keep saying vision, vision, vision. But like, I started thinking about vision. That's also not the right way to frame it. Okay, when I was a kid, I read a lot of books, and I think that is a thing that shaped my thinking. I think that, like, in my previous video, in my comments, there's a couple of quotes, one from Ursula Le Guin, one from Terence McKenna. And it was reading books as a kid that gave me a very implicit sense that there's more to the world than what you see around you. There's more to the world than what is said. There exists this kind of shadow reality, or this alternate reality, this adjacent possible that could be, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about fiction. Some people dismiss fiction as, oh, it's not real, it's fake. But fiction, we live with fictions as well. Money is a kind of fiction. The law and order and justice, legal systems, it's a kind of fiction. It's stuff that we make up, right? And we decide collectively that it's what we believe in and what we think is real and what we think is correct, right? It's ideals that we live up to. Those are fictitious concepts because we made them up, but that doesn't mean that they're not real, right? In that they have very real impacts on our lives and how we live and how we do things. Okay, so reading a lot of books gave me perspective, and it exercised my imagination, and it made me believe that there is stuff in the world that doesn't exist that could exist, right? Everything that does exist was once someone's dream. Like light bulbs was once somebody had to come up with that, right? Cameras, somebody had to come up with that. Like, people wanted to try and figure things out. Some of it is tinkering, some of it is I have a dream of some kind that I want to manifest. And so when I was going to school, I was very frustrated because I think that school is not a place that encourages you to exercise your imagination. Like they might give you creative writing exercises or whatever, but that's very contained. Your imagination is limited to what you can express on the page. You're not encouraged, you're not allowed to reimagine the way that your environment is. And I think that's a very damaging thing that we do to kids. We trap them in an environment that effectively teaches them learned helplessness. It teaches them to do well on scores, on tests, and score well on that and stuff. But it creates this formalized order that doesn't, it's not how the world actually is, except in that narrow context. But the context that you're in shapes it shapes your imagination, right? It limits your imagination. Okay, I still haven't gotten around to like what my vision is. I have many different visions for many different things at many different scales. So, when I got on the internet, I very quickly developed a vision of there must be people out there like me. There must be people who are nerds, right? Who are playful, who are fun, who are interesting, who want nothing but to spend all their time geeking out about stuff. I believe that must be true. And I didn't have hard evidence for it, but I did the math, right? Statistically, the number of people online are this many people. I have read books before, and books are written by, nerds and geeks and people who love things. And statistically, there must be people who want to write books and people who have written books who are online, who want to hang out, who want to chat, right? And so I want to find them. And I believe that if I talk to them with the same kind of energy that they bring to the table, then they would want to talk back. And for me, for a long time, this was just self-evident. It was just obvious. When I go on podcasts and stuff, people ask me to tell them the story of how I became this way. But when you're living inside the story, it doesn't occur to you that there's an alternate story. It doesn't. I mean, I saw other people not living like I did, not reading books all the time, not dreaming all the time, I guess. But I couldn't understand how they were living. Like it didn't make sense to me. Like it's however they were living. I can try and imagine it, but that's been a story for another day. And so, beyond my personal experience of reading books and all of those things, there's a Steve Jobs quote that's coming to mind that he talks about. I'm not sure if it's the same quote as his quote about LSD, but he talks about how when you realize that everything around you is made by people no better than you, no more intelligent than you, like they're just people make stuff that become the world, right? But yeah, and so I have a vision for how I would like to see my interactions in the world with other people. I have vision for the kind of friends I want in my life. One thought experiment that I've used in several occasions is I say, think about your 80th birthday, right? You're old, you've lived your life, you're not dead yet, but you're kind of at the end of a long and illustrious life of another 50, 60 years. And imagine what's that like. Imagine what the perfect 80-year birthday party is like. Who's there? Who has come to commemorate your life? What have you accomplished, right? And I imagine, I dream about, I want to have friends from all over the world, right? I want to have friends from very different backgrounds who have done very different things. I want friends of different ages, right? I don't just want to hang out with another group of 80-year-olds. I would like there to be young people in my life as I am elderly, right? And these thoughts, they then influence my actions. If I want to be someone who has younger friends at my old age, I should be making younger friends now as well. And I do. I'm 30 and I have friends who are 22, 23, and it's fun. It's nice. It's cool to hear from them because their point of view is fresher, less cynical, less frustrated. They have their own frustrations, which I have some perspective on as an older guy, and their eagerness and their eagerness to confront their lives is something that I find that my friends in like my old friends from who are in kind of my age group, my peer group, like they don't quite have that as much, and so it almost feels like a life isn't a competition, but it feels like a competitive advantage in a sense. It feels like I am less isolated and I'm less imprisoned by my own circumstances and my own worldview because I can inhabit all these other people's minds and lives and so on. Okay, let's talk grander visions. Let me talk about my country, Singapore. So I live in Singapore. Singapore is a very young country. It's only 1965, and now it's 2021. So Singapore will be like 56 this year, I believe. And so being a young country, most of what Singapore is, right, is very much a function of very recent history. And I can talk about this for hours. Maybe I'll make a separate video about that. But I've been thinking about what would it be like for Singapore to have a golden age, like a renaissance, like a awakening, like a beautiful time where great people from around the world want to come to Singapore, want to move here, live here, set up their lives here, and kind of have kids here potentially, right? And do their life's work here and be fulfilled and satisfied. I think that's a very important question to ask, and I worry that not more people seem to be asking it. There may be, so the like official narrative, so there are people who come to Singapore and work, and they are migrants and they are expats and whatever you want to call them, and as well as like local Singaporeans who I do find that when I talk to people, a lot of people are kind of disillusioned and frustrated with the rat race, right? Like the bargain for the past couple of generations was something like, so in 1945-ish, there was like World War II, and there was a Japanese occupation, lots of horror, bloodshed, deprivation, starvation, even, right? People lost their homes, lost their lives, and the famous Singapore story is that in the next over the next 30-40 years, like this economic miracle, industrialized, everyone educated workforce, everyone went to school, everyone studied hard, nobody protested, protests were kept to a minimum, and just there's all of these like the compression of that story. I've told some people is that it's kind of like a kid that got beaten or bullied at school very badly and then decided that he was gonna kind of steal his heart and put aside any fun and frivolity and focus on doing push-ups every day and studying really hard and getting great grades and just crushing it, right? Like that's what people like to say, crushing it. And Singapore has crushed it for some time, for a few decades now. We've been making good money, we've been making good progress on all. GDP is high, right? But are people happy though? And that's something that's not so straightforward. And I get the sense that a lot of people are pretty anxious about their future. Cost of living is high, just the pressure of the environment is high, peer pressure is high. Generally, I think the East Asian countries, Singapore, Korea, Japan, you hear similar stories. People studying too hard, working too hard, not having kids, just overworking, no time for passion, no time for pleasure, play. And I don't think that this is something that needs to continue, and I don't think it's something that we want to continue. I don't think it's something that's intrinsic to Singaporeans themselves. And that's the thing that I don't see people discussing. Like people, so if you read like a Western account of Singapore and even some local accounts of Singapore, it's like Singapore's boring, sterile, just nothing cool is happening. There's everyone's so meek and obedient to the government, and it's stale. And I would say yes, there is truth to that, but you have to understand it really is a consequence of post-war trauma and whatever subsequent trauma that happened after that. Like there's no rule that we have to be like this 5 generations into the future, right? In fact I feel like the current generation of kids, like the Gen Z kids and the kids after that, like they have no concept of so I was born in 1990, And by then, Lee Kuan Yew, the prime minister then, he was like stepping down already. So I grew up with Goh Chok Tong as my first prime minister, and then Lee Hsien Loong after that. And I had no experience of the kind of authoritarian, foreboding aura that older Singaporeans described. So it is, like that's cool. That's evolution. That's progress. That's how things change. And I'm excited about the possibility. Singapore within the region is the whole region is coming up. Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Philippines. Like there are people in all of these countries like who are middle class, lower middle class, who are quickly getting educated, quickly coming on the internet, and they are eager to explore their future, right? And what the world has to offer for them. So I feel like there is work, and so the narrative that Singapore typically has been selling foreigners so far has been like, oh, it's very safe, it's very clean, and you can make money here, right? Which appeals to some people. I would say it appeals to people who want a safe place to make money and whatnot. But like that's not exciting, That's not that doesn't attract the most ambitious people on the planet. What are the most ambitious people on the planet attracted to? Like historically, I think they want to go where they feel that they can make a species level impact, like a really planetary kind of large scale impact, right? So at some point in the past, it might have been whatever university towns, Cambridge, Oxford. Before that, it might have been Florence. At some point, it might have been where was it that was it Zurich? No, Vienna. At some point, right? Freud and friends. And at some point, it might have been some parts of the U.S. And the thing, I just feel that Singapore is well positioned. If you look at Singapore's older history, it lies in this along the Straits of Malacca. It's along the choke point of a major global shipping route, right? And so Singapore historically has always been this place where culture has been intermingling, and there's many different races, many different cultures, and people are just mixing and exchanging, and that's a very exciting place to be, I feel. And I think I now have the freedom to pretty much move to any major city in the world if I want to. I want to visit all the cities, but I'm pretty confident that having visited a little bit around, I want to stay in Singapore because I think that we can do great things. I think we can make this a place that ambitious people want to make their home and do their life's work. And I don't think the government is doing a great job of selling this narrative. And to be fair, I don't know if it is the government's job to do that. I think it's citizens who have to do it. So that's my vision for Singapore. All right, it's 17 minutes. Should I talk about like my bigger vision? My bigger vision still is, the fact that if you think about it, all the great things that have happened in human history, right? They all revolve around scenes. There was the Baghdad House of Wisdom. There was the Gupta Golden Age in India when they invented zero. And, there was that period of time. And right now I'm reading about H.G. Wells and G.K. Chesterton and George Bernard Shaw. And there was just that literary scene in England at some point, and where they were doing all this philosophy and thinking and stuff. And just there have been such states in such contexts that ambitious people do great things. And they used to be very much dependent on chance, right? They couldn't find each other in a global way. They didn't have Twitter, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have anything. They sent letters around, right? And they tried, one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, Ramanujan, was born in India and he was relatively poor, and he was really lucky that he managed to get in contact with Hardy. I can't remember, something Hardy, Thomas Hardy maybe, and that he got kind of a scholarship to go to the UK to study there and consort with the other great minds. And I believe that it's ridiculous that we are not obsessing about this all the time, that we could be seeking out the best people alive, who are the people who are doing the most interesting work, connecting them with each other, and just creating a global network of ambitious people, and it doesn't need to be a formal network. I think very often when I talk to people, they get quick to thinking, oh, are you starting a company? Are you building a organization? And I'm like, no, it's more of like I'm trying to make a cultural institution. I would say a cultural institution is like, New York has a bunch of cool ones, right? Like all these old comedy clubs and bookstores and venues that accumulate cultural knowledge and insight from the people there, right? Libraries, even universities, I guess, where people have come and gone through those halls, right? And through different political climates and different, um, you know, people working in different companies and jobs and stuff like that. But they all kind of mingle around that common space. These common spaces are really valuable and really understudied and underappreciated because they are the crucibles of human greatness, right? And so how do we make one? Like, shouldn't we be obsessing about this all the time? I feel that we should. So it's my current obsession, right? And yeah, I'm hoping. I was thinking, as one of the people I study is Quincy Jones, the musician and producer. And if you look at Quincy Jones's career, like he's a great producer himself, and he has produced some of his own songs that are pretty good. But like the amazing thing about Quincy Jones is that he was working. If you look at the people he has collaborated with, he collaborated with Sinatra and Michael Jackson and all kinds of amazing people, and like that is a thing that a person can aspire to. A person can aspire to collaborate with lots and lots of great people and connect them with each other. I think Quincy discovered Oprah. Like if you look at his career, you go through the details. It's truly, it's like Forrest Gump. It's like a real life Forrest Gump, kind of connecting all these people. And yeah, I think that if we do more of that, we can encourage more people to aspire to greater things. We can connect them to each other. We can share their work. So one of my things is that a scene is, you can just have two ambitious people trying to be prolific and outdo and impress each other in public, and you could have like a Lennon McCartney kind of situation where them trying to impress each other creates a body of work that other people can see and enjoy. And because it just keeps they keep one-upping each other, the quality just gets better and better to the point where like everyone else has to take notice, be so good they can't ignore you, right? Yeah, this is 20 minutes, so I'm gonna stop this here. But yeah, man, that's some of what's on my mind. Done.